All right, you are live. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. This is Ruth and I from Step Up for Autism. I'm hosting two magnificent and very nice and good friends of mine today, and they're going to talk about ASD Parent Power. And I would like them first to introduce themselves. Elizabeth, you can go ahead.
Sure. Hello. My name is Elizabeth Morgan, and I am a autism researcher. But before any of and all of that, I'm a proud parent. I have two beautiful children, one of which my youngest child is on the autism spectrum. He's 11. And I actually look forward to our talk today because I just really enjoy talking to families and giving them information on how to be powerful parents for their children.
That's good. Thank you so much. Welcome to this little show. Okay, Jane, Dr. Jane, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Dr. Jane Paul. I am a professional. I work in the field of autism. I'm a clinical director for one of the ABA agencies, and I'm also an instructor at EDS Learning Institute, where we are teaching people how to become behavior therapists or behavior technicians and also other lessons. I'm really excited about today because first of all, I get to be with you, Ruth, and to be with my colleague, Elizabeth. We have come from far. So I'm really looking
Mhm.
forward to this talk. And I really also, as a professional, I advocate for parents, and I really, it's always a joy when I have a parent who is very involved in the care of his or her children. So I'm really excited about today.
Oh, I'm excited to thank you so much, Jane, for the introduction. So we're gonna go ahead and ask you what is ASD Power Parent mean. So I'll go ahead with Elizabeth.
Sure. So when I think of ASD parent power, I think of a parent or family member or caregiver that is informed and knowledgeable and feels like they have agency, meaning that they understand how to be able to use what they have to get what they need for their child. And what I know for sure is that when you first get a diagnosis, or when you even first suspect that there might be a developmental difference with your child, um, it can really feel, you cannot feel powerful, right? You can feel a lot of emotions, but powerful is not one of them. You
Mhm.
feel
Yeah.
guilt and worry and concern and all of these things, and power is not a part of that process. And so I know for me, one of the things that I really valued in my journey when my son was first diagnosed at 2.5 was I got connected immediately with other families. And being connected with other families made such a big difference because
Mhm.
I got a chance to just really be honest with how I'm feeling when I had days that I wasn't so confident. I could talk to someone that could relate. When I had questions about what to do next, I had someone that could give me some good advice. And I love my friends and I love my family, but when I came
Mhm.
to those who did not have a child with ASD, unfortunately, sometimes they gave me not such great advice. They
Right,
were,
right, right.
they love you so much, but they can tell you all the wrong things sometimes. So I just really appreciated having friends. And one of my friends, who I love, and to this day, she's now a colleague of mine. Her name is Benita Ayala. She told me early on in my journey that, you are the captain of this ship. And I asked, I was like, well, what do you mean? And she said, when you look around the table, all the people that are involved in your child's life, whether it be, a physician or some type of therapist or whoever else, it's the family, it's the parents that are going to always be there. And so you're really running that ship. And the reason why everyone is in their lives, if you're fortunate to have therapies, is because of that child and because of your child. So you really have to be the person that's managing and and running that ship. So one of the things I had to learn really early on was that I had to be informed. So I
Mhm.
started off as an educator. I was a teacher, and then I was a K administrator, an elementary school primary administrator here in the United States in California. And when we got the diagnosis, we were here in California, and I realized I needed to get more information because all I knew was about typical developing children. I didn't know a whole lot about atypical development. So when
All right. I think she's frozen a little bit. Jen,
Mhm.
can you hear me?
I can hear you well.
yeah, can you hear me?
Okay.
So,
Sorry.
Yes.
oh, oh yeah.
Yeah, so I read
But
as many books as I could, and I picked up a book. This was actually from a parent support group that I was a part of. It's very similar to Step Up to Autism. That they gave out this book by Catherine Maurice. It's called "Let Me Hear Your Voice," and it was a biography of a parent's journey of figuring out how to put together a behavioral program, an intervention for their child before there were any type of interventions that were available for families to have access to. So in the United States, we have access to be able to get lots of resources to our children, but it wasn't always the case. And so this happened before that time, and this mother had two children on the spectrum, and she put together her own behavioral program, her own
Mhm.
intervention for her child, and
that's
ran it.
interesting.
And
Wow.
what was so powerful about this is that she had to know what was evidence based, right?
Mhm.
So what is something we know really works for children on the spectrum to help them grow and learn? And I think
Mhm.
that unfortunately we have a lot of people that are out there that will prey on our vulnerability of wanting to do whatever it takes to be able to help our children. So they'll tell us
Yeah.
things that are not evidence based, right? They'll
Mhm.
tell us things, and we have the best intentions and we want to do everything because that's what parents do, and
Yeah.
we start doing these programs and we don't see much progress, or if we see progress it's just very small, and it's because there's no
Right.
research, there's no evidence to say that actually really works, right? And so what's so
Mm-hmm.
important is knowing what's evidence based and then knowing how to implement it, so that
Mhm.
way when you start getting things going, you know what's really what really should work, what's really working and what's not, and you know how to be able to evaluate if it's working for your child. Because I
Mhm.
think one of the things about autism is that every child with autism is different, right? One child with autism, just one child with autism. There's so many
Mhm.
different
Mm-hmm.
types of ways that children are
Yeah.
Right.
impacted. So that's
Mhm.
the reason why knowing what is evidence based, but then also knowing how to evaluate it and implement it makes a huge difference. And for me, it really did. And because I've always believed in this quote that I was down in Texas and I was at the Buffalo Soldier Museum, and they
Mhm.
said one of the quotes that they had on one of the uh, plaques that they had in the museum, and it said, "If it is to be, it's up to me." And I love
Mhm.
that concept.
Yeah.
If this is
Yeah.
going to
That's really
my
a good
child,
concept. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to be a part of making it happen. And so,
Right.
by God's grace, He gives us resources. He gives us people to be able to connect with and do
Mhm.
those things, because that can help make you powerful.
Oh, thank you so, so
Awesome.
much. Now
Mhm.
we throw it to you, Jane. What is ASD Parent Power?
Wow,
As a
following. Yes,
Elizabeth has
following
told us as a
Elizabeth.
parent.
Oh, you know
Uh-huh.
what? Yes, that's why I'm really happy to be doing this with Elizabeth, because she is both a parent and a professional. And so she
Mm-hmm.
gave us both sides. But to me, when I think of parent power, and I'm hoping that by the end of this session, we are going to get that too. The parents that are
Yes.
listening. So, parent
Yeah.
power to me is when you, as a parent of a child with special needs, decide or become intentional about awakening that giant within, the giant called power, taking back power. Because when you get that diagnosis, all of a sudden it's like that power is taken away from you, and you're having to start from zero. You are navigating
Yeah, yeah.
a
Mhm.
new set of uh, child care practices, because you have a
Mhm.
special need and you are not given a manual on how to really deal with him or her. So to me, when I think of parent power, I am looking at that parent who becomes an advocate for her child, that parent who takes responsibility and becomes the leader of her child, that parent who becomes proactive, that parent who started documenting, she becomes a perfect, or he becomes a perfect documenter, if that's a word, documenting everything
That's
that is happening. A parent who becomes an expert. You want to be an expert when it comes to your child's when it comes to your child's condition. What are some of the things that you need to learn? What are the characteristics? How can I help my child? You look for that information, and Elizabeth gave us two really great resources. And this parent also becomes I think we lost her, but she'll be back.
yeah.
She
I'll do that.
becomes a collaborator.
Yeah.
She or he, you get a team of parents that are going through the same thing. That's where you get your support, and you don't get burnout as easily, as when
Yeah.
you are by yourself. And then you really educate other people. You educate the rest of your family. You educate your neighbors. You educate your parents. Because for a lot of
Mhm.
parents who are listening, they are in Africa, and a lot of teachers don't know what in the world they are doing. So that's why you need to become an expert, so that you can educate them about your child. Tell
Mhm.
them who your child is. Be a voice for your child. That is the parent power. And that is why Elizabeth and I are here, so that we can help you get that power back.
Thank you so, so much. And you are really right when it comes to parent power. I think me as a parent and others
Mhm,
who are listening to this are really getting a lot of encouragement, a lot of information that
mhm,
we are looking at Dr. Jane and Elizabeth as a professional on and a parent perspective, and both of them, they go through, it's a daily thing. I go through this, but sometimes I think they will agree with me that it's always 100% also. Let's say
mhm,
20% is professional and teachers, and 80% is us,
mhm,
you know so
mhm,
I think I totally am learning a lot, and I hope parents will reach out to us and
mhm,
to you guys for more information.
mhm,
And now we'll go to the second question. I'm going to ask, for evidence-based practice, what suggestions or what suggestion would you give for children with parents, or about children with autism in regards?
mhm. Elizabeth, you want to go first?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
So I think first of all, Jane, thank you so much for that. I love always
Mhm.
working with Jane and Ruth. You're amazing. I just
Thank
love
you.
what's happening here and just being able to support and give information that can
Mhm,
help make parents feel not in control, right? And feel like
right.
they have some ability to affect change.
Mhm,
And I think one of the things before I answer the evidence-based question, Jane
mhm,
had mentioned, sometimes teachers don't know. And I think, both I can speak as now as a professional, as an autism researcher, and
Mhm.
someone that does a lot of outreach
mhm,
into families, and also I've been a teacher. Is the truth is we don't
mhm,
sometimes, and I
mhm,
think what's unfortunate is that our we can be conditioned to put on a front that we
right.
do, right?
Mhm,
And also some parents can assume that we do, right?
yes.
So there were many situations in my
Mhm,
son's uh, journey and in our journey that I was at the same training as our
mhm,
therapist, or I was at the same training as our
mhm,
teacher,
right.
trying to learn information because
Mhm,
while they were right, that was specifically concerning my child.
mhm,
So, I mean, the truth is we can parents can be just as empowered and informed. And I think as a professional, I love working with families who have information and
Right.
feel like they understand, how
Mm-hmm.
all the pieces fit together. And also,
Right.
if you don't know, ask questions, right? That's the reason why, if we have information and we're working as in a professional capacity, then it's our
Mm-hmm.
job to share it and share it in a way that makes sense, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
not talking over anybody's head. And if what I found too is if someone feels like they have to talk over your head, they're likely do not know how, they don't know it themselves, right? If you
Right.
don't know how to teach it, you don't know the material. That's
Mm-hmm.
my teaching experience, right? So
That's true.
that's how you know something when you know how to teach it, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So if
That's
someone
true.
is not able to, if you ask a question and they're speaking over and all using all this jargon, all these big words, it's
Mm-hmm.
likely that they don't really understand it themselves, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So just be encouraged in that. But then also when it comes to evidence based,
Mm-hmm.
I say there's lots of resources and lots of
Right.
free resources, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have access to the internet, and I know everyone that's watching this does because this is a virtual
Yes.
event, then you have access to information. And so
Mm-hmm.
we gave you, Ruth, quite a few resources to share with your families on your page at the end of this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
That
That would be awesome. Thank you. Mhm.
Yes, one includes the Affirm modules, which are
Mm-hmm.
the autism focused intervention resources modules. And
Right.
those modules are broken up uh, into the what we know as evidence based practice, and they teach you
Right.
exactly what it is, how to
Mm-hmm.
implement it, and how to be able to check for fidelity, making sure that it's actually being implemented correctly. And they give you
Right.
videos and they give you checklists, and it
Mm-hmm.
makes it so easy. I was fortunate and blessed to be in Kenya just in February and March, and I got a
Mm-hmm.
chance to do a training with a school that was including a child with autism. And I taught them about some of the Affirm modules and some of the different techniques, such as using
Mm-hmm.
visual schedules
Right.
and being able to just really prime a child for transitioning and things of that
Mm-hmm.
sort, and things that you can do that are not
Mm-hmm.
high tech, but
Mm-hmm.
they know that they really support a
Mm-hmm.
child with autism in giving them the processing um, time and
Mm-hmm.
space to be able to understand how to be able to do these more challenging things. So I think, that's one thing. We also have some parent education trainings that we're distance training modules we're going to give you a link for. And then
Mm-hmm.
for early intervention, so for children before 3, um,
Mm-hmm.
and say maybe you don't even have a diagnosis, but you're noticing that there are patterns that your
Right.
child is exhibiting. There's a resource called Help Is in Your Hands that comes from the university that I'm at, the Mind Institute, Dr. Sally Rogers, who's one of my mentors. And she put together this evidence based behavioral approach called, she helps implement the ESDM, Early Start Denver model. And so what they did is they made these concepts of ESDM in a very parent friendly way. They use videos to be
Mm-hmm.
able to show you exactly how to implement it. And that's a free resource, right? And then we also gave you a video of how to overcome stigma that myself and a few of my colleagues did specifically to try to support overcoming stigma in the Black community. So those are just a few resources that we're
Mm-hmm.
going to give you on how to be able to know what's
Mm-hmm.
evidence
Right. And the resources
Thank
that
you
we
so much.
shared,
Mhm.
yeah, the resources that Elizabeth talked about, we have gone through them. So we know what is there. And that's why we are actually recommending them. And to add on that, when we talk about evidence based, we are talking about strategies that have been researched. They are documented to work. And we know that when people don't have options, like in Africa, a lot of people don't have options. When you don't have options, it's easy to try strategies that have not been proven to work. As a as an empowered parent, please don't fall for that, because that just delays the evidence-based strategies that you may be wanting to use for your child. And I know
Mm-hmm.
one of the ones that is hugely used in, I'll talk about Kenya, is diet therapy. And see, autism is not a nutrition deficiency problem.
Mm-hmm.
I do understand that there are some children who are allergic to some kind of foods, so it's good to avoid that. But please don't use it as a treatment for autism. That
Yeah,
is
there's no
not going to
treatment.
work.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much of that. Look for something that has been proven to work. Look for ABA based methods. Look for,
Mm-hmm.
go to the modules that we just talked about and get something that is going to help your child. And when we talk about resources, I have a resource that I always like to give parents. It's called Step to Independence. This is an amazing book, and it's so easy for you to use. And we'll go ahead and I'll give the link to you, Ruth, so that you can
Okay,
put it
thank
down
you.
there. Because the more resources you can get your hands to, the better you are going to
The
be.
best.
And I always say an educated parent is an empowered parent. So always
Absolutely.
be
Yes.
educated, educate yourself, and you'll be better off for your child.
Oh my God, that is awesome to hear this. And it's true about uh diet thing, because now you know how, because we at home we are always desperate, to get a treatment. We want to do anything that's possible. So
Right.
when somebody brings up, oh, if I do this, if you give your child this, they're gonna get better.
Mhm.
And I'm also encouraging parents, don't fall for it. Diet
Right.
is just, unless they're allergic. But
Mhm.
as Jane said,
Mhm.
you know what? Don't make it like it's a treatment. Don't fall into that, because it's not a treatment. Yeah.
Right.
So thank you
And
guys for that. So
yeah.
we'll go to the next question.
Mhm.
And wow, I'm getting so much information. And what are your thoughts or advice you would give to families who are afraid of stigma associated with the label of autism? What can we do, or what do we say to encourage them? So I'll go with you, Jane, first.
Well, the topic of stigma is really huge. It's something that I have dealt with in my own practice. Um, it's something I have dealt with African parents. Stigma is real. It's real any way you look at it. And all I can tell you is one thing I know is that when you get that diagnosis for your child, your life changes, your family life changes. All of a sudden, you find yourself alienated from your family, from your circle of friends. You find that all of a sudden you're not invited to social
Mhm.
gatherings.
Yes.
Your friends are not inviting you, especially if you're going to be taking your child. And life changes. So how do you navigate that? That is where advocacy comes in. If someone want to invite you to a birthday but don't go with your child, then you let them know this child is a part of me. It's a part of my life. If we are not both invited, sorry, I am not coming. And then just knowing that social support, getting that extra support from families who support you, from friends who support you, parents that are raising kids with special needs, get that support. And most of all, really be there for your child. In Africa, they do talk about autism, being a curse. And that is something a lot of parents have actually brought to us as professionals. And I know Elizabeth will also talk about that as a parent. And
Yeah.
one of the things that The other day we were talking with Elizabeth, and she mentioned something that really stood out, for me, because she said that she told one of the parents that when she thinks of her child, she doesn't see her child as a curse or as an inconvenience. She sees
Mm-hmm.
him as someone that God created, and autism is part of his uniqueness, is part of him, and therefore he is whole. And I am so glad that even in this part or talking to our parents in Africa, we can talk about spirituality. And that is something that gives us power as parents, knowing that we can go back there as a source of power.
Right.
So
Wow.
autism is not a curse, it is a neurodevelopmental disabilities. It's a neurodevelopmental disability. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise. So educate yourself. And if anybody tells you that, tell them what it is. Advocacy is going to make a difference.
So I guess I can jump in and
Yes,
just
yes,
say
yes.
that
Yes.
absolutely, and I absolutely agree. It's about advocacy, and then
Mhm.
also, being really comfortable with your get, being comfortable within your skin and being comfortable with your child, being comfortable with
Right.
yourself, and giving yourself grace, knowing that
Mhm.
first of all, there's no one perfect, but we're all
Mhm.
complete, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so like God didn't make mistakes, and like that was one thing that when Jane mentioned that, that's exactly how I feel. My
Mhm.
child is complete, not
Right.
missing or lacking in anything.
Mhm.
And so I think one of the things that it can be hard because the
Okay.
world tells us that, there's something wrong with this child,
Right.
something
Mhm.
wrong with you, you did something, the world tells us this. And
Yeah.
then we
Right.
reinforce it in our head. We can, as
Mhm.
parents, because we love our kids so much,
Mhm.
we can start repeating those things in our head. And that's just unhealthy thinking, right? That,
Right.
that space that we're giving that thing, we
Mhm.
that to try
Mhm.
to find something that could actually really support our child, right?
Right.
Really getting to goals that they need to. And one
Mhm.
of the things, in the US, there's a very strong autistic advocacy and
Mhm.
self advocates, and
Right.
they're adults who have
Mhm.
autism, and they talk about how they really they don't want to be changed, right? They don't
Mhm.
want to be changed, and these are people that have a voice to be able to say that. And
Right.
one of my goals has always been, I'm not trying to change my child. If
Right.
any therapy that he gets and any supports, it's
Mhm.
always been about how to be able to give him tools to
Right.
navigate the world so that
Mhm.
he can be able to make decisions,
Right.
and do things for himself and for, God willing, his family and the
Mhm.
community that he's going to impact.
Right.
My child, when he was diagnosed, he did not speak. When my child
Mhm.
was diagnosed, my
Mhm.
child didn't start speaking until 4.
Right.
So we were not, this quote unquote real high functioning type of
Mhm.
situation.
Right.
And so we had a lot of reasons to feel discouraged. But, I
Right.
think, every child is different, but I'm very thankful that,
Mhm.
we were able to get, a team of people, because I couldn't do
Right.
it on myself. My husband
Mhm.
couldn't do it himself. Our family
Mhm.
could do it ourselves. He has an older sister. We could not do it. We got a team of people that we all work together for the common goal of being able to support him in whatever things that he needs, whether it's speech to help him learn how to be able to articulate words and to be able to use those words in ways that are meaningful, right? Or
Yeah.
it's OT so that he can handle the sensory environment, right?
Mhm.
Or if it's type of behavioral therapy, those types of things, to be able to learn the building blocks of learning, right?
Mhm.
They're all for a reason, and you need that team to
Mhm.
be able to do that. And if you can't get that team, then you need to know, first of all, know your child, because you
Right.
need to know what they need. And then you
Mhm.
need to know what types of therapies will be helpful for them, so you can be able to access that information somehow, or find it out for yourself and implement it.
Right. And one thing I would like to add to that, Ruth, you had mentioned that some parents who are listening may they may have they may not have a diagnosis because they're afraid of stigma. I will tell you one thing that I always tell my families, especially if I notice that something is going on with their child. I always tell them, you can take action now. Do something about what you see. And maybe later you will realize you didn't have anything to worry about, but you
Mm-hmm.
looked for help early. Your child was helped with whatever difficulties he or she was experiencing. The other thing you can do, you may decide not to take action now, and then later you realize you had something to worry about. And that is the worst thing or worst place you want to be as a parent. So whenever
Mm-hmm.
you notice that something is not right with your child, seek help early. Look for information. It's better to take action now and later, 3 years down the line or a year down the line, you realize, oh, I really didn't have anything to worry about. And that is a good place to be. So don't ignore anything. Look
And
for help early. Early intervention does work.
it absolutely does. And I
Yeah,
think,
an intervention does work. I can't
Yes.
tell it's true, but for
Mhm.
me, I didn't do an early intervention because of lack of resources or lack of help. Where I was at that time, they didn't have um they had to we didn't have somebody to diagnose my son, so it took longer. They only did it when he was almost 4 years. So
Mm.
it was typically in a normal classroom, and they'll be like, no, it's fine, it's just he's just having late speech. But
Mhm.
because I was new to autism, so I didn't understand actually what it meant until
Mhm.
he got his diagnosis, and I thought there was treatment for it. And I remember it does really, I don't know, maybe every parent takes it the way they take it, but I took it hard because I was like, so what can I do? Why him? Why not the other kids?
Mhm.
So, and then plus the stigma that surrounds you. What did I do? Where
Mhm.
did I go wrong?
Right.
Everybody's asking me. Like,
Mhm.
it was kind of hard to explain to everybody. And one thing I have learned is I don't have to explain to everyone about
Mhm.
my child. I don't have,
Right.
because sometimes even if you want to explain, some of them might not. Stigma is real. So if I notice you need more information, that's fine. But I don't have to explain everywhere I go. I have to be, my son is this. No, it's just the way it is.
right,
You know.
Right.
right.
So I
Right.
know we are really doing good with time, and we are now about to close and end this. But now with the challenges of this, whatever is going on with ASD Parent Power, what do you tell the parents who about COVID-19 in just 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and then we close at this moment? What can you tell the parents who are having children at this time? What can they do? What would you recommend? Elizabeth, I'll go with you first.
Sure. First of all, thank you so much, since we're closing, for having me. And I'm so happy we're doing this and love to continue this conversation. And any families that have any follow up questions, I'd love to,
Right.
support answering those things. Um,
Right.
because, like you said, stigma is real.
Mhm.
And so sometimes it takes time to process, everything
Mhm.
that's being said and kind of making meaning for you. But when it comes to COVID-19, I would say, just there goes my little guy in the background. When it comes to COVID
That's
19,
fine.
can
That's
I say
okay.
hi? So I would say take this time. Really, honestly, we have this. Some states I know are open, and some countries are opening back up. But in my state, we're still closed, and so I'm just really valuing this time to be able to get to know him more, right, and spend more time
That's
with
good.
him. Because remember, the foundation of this is that you are the expert of your child, right?
Right.
That parent power piece. You can't do that unless you get to know them. right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
sometimes I think the stigma of autism is you feel like, well, this child is different. This child, I can't, I don't understand this child. Well, get to know, your child and get to know. I mean, one of the things that I think is so powerful is most of our families, we know, hey, he's having a bad day or she's having a bad day, or, this is what's going on. He didn't get this particular snack. Those are very developmentally appropriate things usually by age. When children don't get what they want, they have a tantrum, right? Or they have, and we call it behavior, but
Right.
Mm-hmm.
like we happen to know, like, children, before they're anything, they're children, right? And so know your child, right? Get to know
Mm-hmm.
your child, get to know their
Yeah.
individual likes and
Mm-hmm.
loves and desires, because those are and interests, because those are the things that you can really be able to use to support implementing an intervention. And then you're also speaking from a position of power. When you are working with interventionists, you can say, hey, he or she likes this, or they're highly
Mm-hmm.
motivated by these things. And
Right.
you use those to support implementing intervention or encouraging them to talk and to engage and communicate. You use
Mm-hmm.
those things. So that's a really big piece of just really knowing your child and knowing, what makes them tick. So use this time. Don't
Mm-hmm.
don't let this crisis go to waste. Use it
Right.
Thank you
as
so
an
much.
opportunity.
Right.
And Jane, as a profession,
Yeah, I really like what you said about using this time to know your child, because that is one of the things that we are encouraging our parents to do. We are also encouraging them to be as consistent as possible with what their child is doing for school. And that's where educating yourself comes in. Know what goals your teachers are working on so that you can actually do some of that at home. Give your child some structure in the home as well, so that when it's time for him or her to go back to school, it's not going to be another huge adjustment. And then if you have a behavior plan, make sure that you're also using that, so that the way the school or the interventionists deal with the behavior, you are also dealing with it the same way. And one thing I would like to add is, most of all, during this COVID-19, as a parent, don't forget to take care of yourself, because self care is so critical. It is how we are able to replenish some energy back to ourselves, and in order to be able to really help our children. When we are burned out, we are frustrated, and the child is frustrated, and everything becomes very chaotic. And remember, many times children with autism and other special needs, when you give them directions, be patient with them, because sometimes giving them a direction to them sounds like giving them an address, telling them to go to a certain address with no GPS and no direction. So as a parent, be their GPS. Give them the tools that they need to navigate their world, so that they can reach their highest potential.
oh my God, thank you so much. And we're closing in. I'm going to say thank you. We have three things we've learned here, and we are going to close. I will say parent knowledge and parent is parent empowerment.
Mhm.
Uh, and I'm just quoting what they've been saying here. And also, your child comes first before the label autism.
Mhm.
And it's good to go there and advocate for autism, talk about our children. We don't have to feel guilty about it. We just have to be open. Bring your child out. Let them. It's a high time where right now, as we said, COVID-19 has put us indoors. Let's get to know our children more. And I want to thank again my guest, Elizabeth Morgan. Thank you very much for quite info. I know we'll be back again as we continue. And Dr. Jane, thank you so much. And I hope everybody who's joined in is going to be educated and well informed to know what parent power is, and use this information. They will post links up when we finish the talk, and you can ask questions, and anything that you feel free to ask both of them. So we're gonna say thank you all for joining in, and I hope you have a great day and a good afternoon, good evening wherever you are, and good night wherever you are. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay.